Atlanta versus Savannah, Georgia. Which one of these two cities is the best place to live for you and your family? If you're considering making a move to Georgia from any state, you have to compare these two cities. So today, I'm gonna show you something that took me hours and hours and hours to put together, and I'm gonna put it in this video perfectly for you, okay? We're gonna go over a crime report. Which one of these two cities is the safest? Which, by the way, you're gonna be extremely surprised about the answer. Also, we're gonna go over the school ratings, the cost of living, the pros and cons of each city, and much more. And by the way, if this is your first time watching, I'm Luis Bruno. I am a realtor down here in Georgia, and all I do all day long is to help people just like you relocate from wherever you are to the state of Georgia. Now, I want to start this comparison list with something that a lot of realtors not only are afraid to talk about, but they are apparently not allowed to talk about, which I'm actually gonna break that rule and talk about it. Let's talk about violent crimes, okay? Atlanta versus Savannah, Georgia. Check this out. If you pay attention to this chart, in Atlanta, we had in 2024, 3,155 reports of violent crimes. In Savannah though, we had 984. Now check this out. As you know, Savannah, Georgia is a lot smaller than Atlanta. So we have to make some adjustments in terms of the population size. If you pay attention to the second column, in Savannah, the chances of being a victim of violent crime are 661 people out of 100,000 people. Now, in Atlanta, that's 593 per 100,000 people. That means that in reality, in Savannah, Georgia, you have a 12% higher chance of being a victim of violent crime. And by the way, all of these statistics are from 2024 because, as you know, I'm recording this on September 2025. So that means the year is not over. We don't have the official stats for 2025 yet. Okay, so now that we're done talking about crime, let's talk about something that is very close to the same topic, which is school districts. As you know, if you're considering making a move to Georgia, you cared about school districts, especially if you have kids. You want to make sure your kids are safe, that there's a lot of bullying and violence going on. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about which of these cities has the best school districts. Take a look at this chart, right? The average school rating in Chatham County, Georgia, which is the Savannah, Georgia area, is 3 out of 10. Now, in Fulton County, which is the Atlanta area, the school rating is 8 out of 10. Guys, it doesn't matter how much research you do. You can go on Facebook groups, you can do some Google search, you can do, I don't know, Reddit, whatever you use to do some research. Everyone here in Chatham County knows that the schools are not good enough, okay? Yes, we have other counties next to us where the schools are the best, which I can reveal to you at the end. But in a nutshell, if the most important thing for you is being in Savannah or being in Atlanta and you want the nicest school districts, Atlanta has a lot more options than Savannah, unfortunately, because I live personally in Chatham County, Georgia. Now, let me clarify something before you take Savannah off the list. If the most important thing to you is the schools, Chatham County also has schools that are 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10, right? And we do have other counties close by, 20-minute drive, that also have great schools that are 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. What I'm saying is, on average, Fulton County, which is the Atlanta area, has better options when it comes to school. But you know what? Now that I think about it, safety in schools don't matter if you're not gonna live here, okay? In order for you to live here, you're gonna have to either have a house or you're gonna be renting. So let's talk about which one of these cities offer better options when it comes to renting and buying. So let's take a look at this. When it comes to renting in Atlanta, Georgia, if you're looking for a 3-bedroom home, you're expected to pay about $2,300 a month on your rental payment, okay? In Savannah, it's $2,200 a month. Only a $100 difference if you're looking for a 3-bedroom home, all right? Now, when it comes to 4-bedroom homes, in Atlanta, you will be paying $3,000 a month compared to Savannah, which is $2,750 a month. Now, if you pay attention to the bottom of this chart, you're gonna notice in Atlanta, on average, that means all bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, on average is $1,951 a month to rent. And in Chatham County, Georgia, AKA the Savannah area, is $1,839 a month to rent. Now, but I know that you have in your plans to purchase a home at some point, okay? So let's compare Savannah, Georgia and Atlanta, Georgia when it comes to buying a house. Here's a comparison of Savannah, Georgia versus Atlanta. If you're looking for a 3-bedroom home, you're expected to pay in Savannah, Georgia about $330,000 on average. Now, in Atlanta, it's $20,000 more expensive, which is $350,000. But what if you need a bigger home? So let's talk about 4-bedroom homes. In Atlanta, if you're looking for a 4-bedroom home, you're expected to pay $200,000 more on average in comparison to Chatham County, aka Savannah, Georgia. Okay, so as you know here on the chart, 4-bedroom home in Atlanta, $600,000 compared to Savannah, $400,000. Right now, in general, in Chatham County, the price median is $365,000 compared to Atlanta, which is $575,000. So we already talked about crime, we talk about schools, we talk about renting, we talk about buying, but how about the cost of living of each of these cities? The first thing I want to get out of the way is the question about the job market or job opportunities. Okay, in a nutshell, in Atlanta, you will always have way more opportunities when it comes to the job market. Why? Well, you have a bigger city, a lot more population, a lot more problems, right? A lot of bigger companies, right? Offering plenty of jobs. You're going to make more money with a better salary. Now, I know you may be wondering, okay, that's true. I'm going to make more money, but at the same time, I'm gonna spend a lot more money on everything else, right? So I can just move to Savannah and it's gonna be the same. Yes, I'm gonna make less money, but I'm gonna save money as well. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. That's what people say. Well, let me give you the answer. I did some research about this. And even if you make the adjustment of population and cost of living, Savannah, Georgia, it's still 3% better when it comes to the cost of living in general, right? The lifestyle, 3% better than Atlanta when it comes to how much money you spend every month. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at this chart right here. So we have Savannah, Georgia on the left versus Atlanta, Georgia on the right, okay? So pay attention to the middle column. You have housing prices, you have groceries, you have utilities, and you also have property taxes, all right? So let's go to Savannah. In Savannah, the housing market is 22% below the national average. Also in Savannah, Georgia, you have a 5% above national average when it comes to groceries. So yes, in Savannah, Georgia, groceries for some reason are not as cheap as people think. Now, when it comes to utilities, we have an 8% below national average when it comes to power and water, okay? Now, how about property taxes? Obviously, if you're gonna own a house, you're gonna have to pay property taxes. In Savannah, you have 0.9% average rate, meaning if a home is $100,000, you're gonna pay almost 1% of that price in property taxes. Now, when it comes to Atlanta, on the right column here, you have totally the opposite. You have a 10% above national average when it comes to the housing market. When it comes to groceries, you have a 7% rather than 5, right? Because Savannah, Georgia was 5%. So Atlanta has a 7% above national average when it comes to the groceries cost. 3% below national average when it comes to utilities. Now, let me tell you this. We have this company called Georgia Power. For some reason, a lot of people hate them. So do some research, depending on where you're moving in Georgia, because there's a very high chance you're gonna have to pay Georgia Power some money. And those people, for some reason, keep increasing the prices of the electricity bill. And last but not least, in the Atlanta column, when it comes to property taxes, they also have a higher rate, which is 1.1% of the value of the property on property taxes every year. So as of right now, Savannah, Georgia lost when it comes to crime and schools, right? Atlanta, Georgia lost when it comes to affordability in the housing market and when it comes to national average cost of living. Now, just to make your life a little bit easier, let me tell you the pros and cons of Savannah, Georgia. If you think you're leaning more towards Savannah, here's the pros and cons you should know. Number one, you have lower home prices than in Atlanta. Another thing is this, we are closer to the coast, we're closer to South Carolina as well. So if you love going to the beach, going to either Tybee Island, you could also go to Hilton Head, things like that. You can enjoy a more tropical weather. Another pro is that Savannah, Georgia is a smaller city, right? Fewer people, less crowded, less traffic, less hassle, right? It feels more quiet and things like that, right? Now, some of the cons of Savannah is that since we are a smaller city, we have fewer job opportunities, lower salaries on average. Also, since we are on the coast, as you know, we have more flood zones and we could get hit by storms and hurricanes a lot more often than Atlanta. And last but not least, in Savannah, Georgia, the heat is horrible. The winter is better, right? So that could be pros and cons depending on what you like, but at least you're aware of it now. Now, in Atlanta, you also have a lot of pros and cons. Some of the pros, for example, bigger market, a lot more people, a lot more things to do. You have better job opportunities, better salaries, okay? Also, you have an international airport. Yes, in Savannah, we do have an airport, but it's not international, okay? So the one in Atlanta, you're gonna have no issues. Now, some of the cons of Atlanta is, yes, you're gonna make more money, but you're gonna spend a lot more too, all right? You're gonna have a higher property tax as well. Even the sales tax is also higher in Atlanta compared to Savannah. And I'm talking about the actual city. The sales tax, every time you buy something, they're gonna charge you more money in Atlanta compared to Savannah. Also, if you're actually looking forward to enjoying weather, the Savannah weather is better than the one in Atlanta. You're gonna pay more money in property taxes. Housing prices in general, including rentals, are a lot more expensive than in Savannah, okay? Also traffic, horrible. One of the worst traffic I've ever seen in my life right there in Atlanta. So it feels a little bit more crowded, but I mean, every city has pros and cons. Now, I made another video where I broke down everything new and coming soon to Georgia in the coming years. So just click here, watch that video next, and if I can help with anything, reach out. This is my phone number on the screen, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.